Hello there, the concept guy. I can just show what you wrote to me here in the comment section of episode 1 of my Android Studio to the Game development tutorial. So first you ask, is Git mandatory? And I said, well, it's not, but really it is. If you want to develop stuff, you should always use Git. And then you asked if I could show you how to drag objects by touching them and then just placing them on different places on the screen. So I think I will just try to make a really rough video where I try to solve this problem and give you the solution. But I don't have any time to edit today because it's Midsummer Eve in Sweden. That's like Christmas in the summer, so to speak, some hedonistic tradition. So I will just do my best to give you some instructions on how to do it. I don't know if I will succeed or not, but let's see. So first we can just start by going to GitHub. Just gonna check that I'm recording. Yes, I'm still recording. So you can just go to this link here. I'll probably put in the description. Otherwise, you can just type it from here. And here you will have the project that I'm making tutorials for. And what we want to do is to check in the commit timeline and check out the version where I basically have nothing in the game. I just have a game loop, so we actually can update states of objects and draw them to the screen. So that would be the game loop commit right over here. So the way to get this, I mean, maybe there are different ways. Browser repository, I don't know. But the easiest way for me at least is to just clone the whole repository. Just click here, clone or download, and hit this copy symbol. And then you can go to the folder where you want to have the project. So have already cloned the repository since I had to sync also with Android and stuff like that. But as a good TV chef, I will show you all the steps and then you can just see the results without me having to load everything. So if you just open Git bash here, what I did before was just to write git clone and then I just paste the URL from GitHub. And after doing that, this how do I delete everything? Alt backspace. Then you should see in this the concept guide your specific folder on my computer. You would have this Android Studio to the game development project. And to come into it, you just write cd for change directory and start writing maybe some letters of the name. I mean, since we only have one folder, you can just hit tab actually, and it will auto-complete this whole folder name. So I just hit enter and now we're inside here. And usually it says master here, that you are on the master branch of a Git project if you only have one branch. But we are in a specific commit here, you can see. So just to show you, if you write git log when you're inside of a Git repository like this, you will see a list of all commits we have. And as you can see, we only have setup and game loop. But previously we actually had a bunch of commits here. So what I did was to just write git log and then choose this specific commit over here. So I just copied this by marking it. You don't actually have to copy it, but just for visual aid, I will just hit copy here. And then I just wrote git check out and then I pasted this hash code here. And as you can see, what it says here is actually the beginning of the same numbers and letters as you see in the actual commit here. So I think this is called commit ID or commit hash or something like that. And if you do that, then you would have the same project state as I have. So once more, git clone, and then it was the URL of the repository. And then it used cd into Android Studio, and after that git log to see all of the commits, and then git checkout, if I spell it correctly, and you just take the hash for the specific commit you want, which is the game loop in this case. And then you would be in the exact same state as I am in right now. So what happens now, if you just open this folder, you can just write Explorer for like Windows Explorer, you know this, File Explorer, and dot for current path. You will open up this folder here. So you see the concept guy, Android Studio game development. And here, Android Studio will recognize this as a project. So I had to just preload everything so everything would sync in Android Studio. But what you would do to open the project is just to hit open and then paste the path here. Like you just take the path here, double click or triple click, Control A maybe, copy, and then paste it in here, and it will appear as project. And then it was just syncing, and I had to set up my emulator and stuff like that. So now I have an emulator working, and let's say the project would look something like this in the beginning, and everything here is built completely, and you don't see anything disturbing down here, and this should be green here. What you do is just to hit play, and you choose a device that you have created, and then you hit OK. And now I think that we will just see a black screen with we're drawing some UPS, updates per second, and frames per second here. And what we will do in this tutorial is to, maybe we can have a to-do list here. We want to create several objects. Let's say 1, create several objects. 2, we want to add some like touch in, or maybe we create several objects and then we draw objects to screen, and then we want to touch and drag objects, touch and drag / drop, and when we touch and drop stuff we need to update position of objects, and after that we want to draw shape of object. Maybe we'll go with rectangles or something like that. And to do all of this thing, to touch and drag and drop and just check this thing, it needs to be kind of in a loop where we see which object are we actually grabbing. So like for each object we want to do these things kind of. But before we can update, we actually have to see which object are we grabbing? Which object are we grabbing? Is it to be? I cannot spell so well. So yeah, that's it. We will see how this goes. But first then we need to create several objects. So we can just stop this program. Then we go to our Java source code. And so I don't know if you're familiar with how this works, but the main activity is the enter pointer application. So when we run this thing, what we are doing is just to create an activity and then setting the content view, like what we want to view in our program or app. So we want to view what the game object is having in its own view. So if we then go to the game object, we can see that this is a surface view, and it has some methods for drawing. No, that's not correct. Well, I guess it is correct. This is an overridden method, so whenever you draw something in this surface view, it will be passed on to the main activities kind of content view, and then you will draw it on the screen, something like that. I don't know exactly, but I think that's how it works. So I think what we want to do is to kind of have a list here in the draw method where we like, what did we write here? For each object we want to draw the shapes kind of. So draw each object. So there will be some for loop we have to implement. And maybe that's the first thing we will do. We'll actually create some objects. So I think we can just right click here and hit new and then Java class, and we will call this maybe draggable object. think that's like OK name, and we hit OK. We don't add anything to Git now. I will not upload this. And then I'm thinking what this method needs to do is just to maybe draw a rectangle or something. And maybe we can just make a constructor for it. So we can write public and then the name of the class. And maybe we can say we have some integer x and some integer y. And we say this dot x equals x, this dot y equals y, and then we create these variables. So let's have them private int x y, and then we want to implement a draw method that can be called from outside. So it should be a public draw method which takes in a canvas object of the name. We will name it canvas. Hit alt return just to import this canvas. You can see now we have it here, Android graphics canvas, and then we make the method body. And why is this complaining? This is interesting. Okay, we need to say if this is returning something or if it's void. So this is void public void draw canvas, and from here we want to use the canvas object, which I think it has something like draw rectangle. So then we can just pass in some left top float right bottom. Okay, so maybe we can just, I think it's simpler to just search for this draw rect example Android, and here we have a good example so we don't have to do everything for ourselves. Then we just modify things. So if this is let's see, so we have left and left top, that will be the coordinates, and this will be width and height. So maybe we can just set this to x and we convert it to a float. This will be y. We also convert that to a float. And this, maybe the width and height will be the same for everything, so we don't have to think about that so much. And then here, this C should be canvas. And this paint here, we need to import, Alt Enter. So now we have paint over here. So we create a new paint object. We set need to some colors, need to import this color class. So now we have that as well. 0, 0, 0. I don't know, maybe that is black, I think. Maybe if we put 255, I guess this is red. So maybe we won't change this later, but it'll be okay. And then some stroke width. I have no idea, maybe this is good. And yeah, so now we can see if this works. So now we have this nice draggable object. And then if we go back to the game class, why is this? This is never used. Yeah, maybe it will be used now, so I think it will work. So after the game loop is created, maybe preferably before. Oh no, it's my girlfriend. Tjena! Gör så älskling, ses sen. Nej, jag behöver ingenting. Okay, back to coding. My girlfriend was asking what if she should buy some groceries. Okay, so now we need to create a new draggable object. So we write draggable. What am I doing? We should have draggable object equals new draggable object, and we put in some x coordinate, maybe 500 and some y coordinate, maybe 500. And then we need to also have this variable initialized. So we say create local variable draggable object. Okay, this is not what I wanted to do. Probably I just do this manually. We can just write here that we want a private draggable object, which is named draggable object. And now it will be okay to refer to it in this way. And then whenever the game loop here is calling its update or draw method, we want to change, we want to do stuff. So here we want to draw each object. So now we have one object, but later on maybe we make a list of it. So we can say draggable object dot draw, and we pass in the canvas. And hopefully now we don't get any errors, but in reality you always get errors. So I hope that it will work. Okay, so now you see we have this red triangle here, and if you want to make more triangles, I think, or no, we start with one triangle, we start simple here, and now we want to be able to drag and drop it, so we need some input handling mechanism. So I think what we can do is to, I remember from my other videos that it's something about on touch event. Maybe I think Control O for search for override methods. And then maybe if I start typing on touch event, could it be that? I'll just search for it. I think that's quicker. On touch event Android. On touch. Yeah, I think it's on touch event. Let's try that. So I think this is an override, so we just have that here. So override public public. This is void. On touch event. Surface view on touch event. Maybe that's what I should search. Yes. Ah, it's a boolean, yeah, because it returns true. You see, this is the way I actually do stuff. I'm often too lazy to just read through a list. I just Google something and then hopefully you find something by doing this. Okay, so now let's try once more. Motion event. Boom, imported. And then get rid of one of the curly brackets. And now I think that, what am I missing? Is it because I don't have a return statement? Return true? Okay, now it's good. So on touch event. So now, depending on what event we get, we want to do different actions. So we need to have some switch case statement here, and maybe we can write it like that. On touch event switch case. Let's see if we find some here to handle pressed event. Yeah, so here on touch event.get action. And then action down, action move, and action app, and that's what we wanted, right? So I think we can just copy all of this and paste it in here. So what happens is that this event, it has some action inside it, and that is an enumerated variable, I think. So it will be actually a number. So if you go into motion event.action down, and it's Control B to go inside it, you can see that if the number is 0, it's an action down event. If it's 1, action up. If it's a 2, action move. But to keep track of this and make it easy to read, people use what is called either enumeration or constants. But whatever, let's go back. So basically, automatically, when we touch the screen, then we will get information if we are touching down just now, or if we have touched down before and now we're moving, or if we are letting go. So if we press down kind of on our own object, then we want to know that we have touched a specific object, and then later on if we move, we want to be able to move that object, and then we want to know if it's released or not. So I'm just thinking here that maybe we can write something draggable object dot set action down. So we will have a variable that tracks if the action is down or not, kind of. And then we can just put in event dot get, can we get x? Yes, so we can get like the coordinates that we are touching down to then decide if we are touching inside of the rectangle or not. So event dot get y, and then we need to implement this method. So alt enter, we get suggestion, create method. We create a method, and here set action down. So maybe we can say that action down equals true. So that will be a variable, an instance variable that we have not yet created, but we can create this field or instance variable or memory variable. This is synonyms, and it will be a boolean, and it will initially be false. And I think it's false by default, but to be explicit, we can just write false here. And then if the action is true, then we know that, so that's good. And then in a later stage, if we are moving on top of this draggable object and this action down is actually true, then we want to move it. So you can think of it like if we look here on the screen, let's say we have many rectangles. If I move this rectangle on top of another one, I don't want to start to move another rectangle as well. I only want to move the one that is actually having the action down equals to true. So that's why we set this action down to true, and we only move around things that have action down equals true. So that's just to save us some headache. So what we can do here then is just to write if, and then we can say draggable object dot get action down. So if it happens to be that this action down is true, then we want to do some action, we want to move it around. So this method is not implemented, so alt enter, create method, and here we simply want to return the variable we created up here. So where the heck is it? Here, action down, and we put it here. And in the same way, like maybe I'm jumping ahead of myself, but if action is up, of course we want to set it to false. So this, now when I think about this set action down, we don't actually need these things here. It's just for moving. Maybe we can just copy that, put it here, and we have to change this for something. Dot dot dot. I don't know. Let's think of that later. But here we just want to set it to true. True. And then it's complaining because we are not inserting a boolean. So boolean, and then it should be named action down. Now they have the same name, which is not good. So we write this to distinguish from this local or argument variable we get in, and to distinguish from the instance variable. So now we're just setting it based on what we pass into it. And then we get action down, we just return it. So now this looks good. We go back and see that this looks good. And we just copy this, put it here. And then we, instead of saying true here, we say false. So now it's just the draggable thing we need to worry about. So maybe we should just implement something that maybe we want to just set the position every time that we're moving something. So set position. Yeah, this looks reasonable, right? So we create this method. So we take in x and y, and then in the end we are just taking this dot x and we are setting it to x. Don't forget the semicolon. We take this dot y. I really hope I'm still recording. Yes, good. And we are setting it to y. And then it's complaining. So int and float. Basically, maybe it was a bad idea to just declare this as an integer. So you cannot double down on stupid decisions. It's better to just change things. So maybe that should be a float, and then we don't even need to specify that this should be a float. So we get rid of that. And then here, yeah, this x and y will be updated. So next time we are drawing, which is handled by the game loop, we will actually draw this rectangle. And like we will have some weird offsets here since we don't account for the width here. Maybe we should do something with the width. I don't want to do that now. It will look weird, but it will still show some movement, I think. Okay. So I stop the program and run it again. It will be amazing if it works on the first try. Things never work on the first try. You see, it almost works. Now we're not moving it, we are actually... What are we doing? We are scaling it. So why is this? It seems like I haven't really understood what this draw rect is doing. Let's see. So we're taking left top. So the left top. Okay, so then we need to have like, I don't know, maybe it's I don't, sometimes I'm lazy, I don't even read, but it feels like if we, yeah, it feels like this will work. Let's just try. Otherwise I will have to read it. Okay, now it's working. Woo! So what we did here is that here is like the left corner of the rectangle. So can I show both things at the same time maybe? Okay. And we close down the project view. So if I hit the control and space, I get some information, and I can see that first we have the left and top coordinate. So the left will be x and the top will be y, and that's what we have here. And then we also have the right and bottom. Now you don't see it here, but it should say float bottom. So this thing here needs to always be offsetted by 200 in both x and y from this coordinate here. So I forgot to take this point here and then offset it for these variables in the beginning, but now it's working. So now we have some offsetting problem here that wherever I'm tapping, you can see that everything gets shifted. So I end up in the left corner, and that's just because the width here is we are not compensating from that here. So I guess if we take like the width divided by 2, let's say 100, and we take minus 100 here and minus 100 here, maybe it should be plus 100. I don't want to calculate that. I'm too lazy. So let's just run again and see what happens. Okay, now it seems to be working. This is a good thing with math. Like, you always know that there's some symmetry here, but is it a plus sign or minus sign? And it's really easy to calculate if you just think a bit, but now I just want to make something quickly. So now this is working. Now you can drag and drop it. And let's say you wanted to have multiple objects. What you do then is that you can just go here to this to the game, and instead of having one object you check things on, you can just have loops with many objects. So let's say you want draggable objects. Let's create the draggable objects array. Draggable object array. Maybe it's not the best name. And let's say we put it here on top. And this is equal to new, and then we need an array of draggable objects. And I don't remember, is it like this? You make an array, and then you say I want 3 of them, maybe. Probably this is all wrong. I just have to try this out. And here we do private draggable object, and then saying it should be an array, and it should be named draggable object array. Okay. Field can be converted to a local variable. Maybe it's just because we're not using it, so it's complaining, but who cares? And we want to have 3 objects in it. So I guess here we can just write that this draggable object array should get this first object here, and we put 0 here because that's the index 0, so we have index 0, 1, and 2. So now we can put 1 and 2, and we can choose some different positions here. So maybe we increase this to 1000, and here we increase that 1000. And now we always have to iterate through this thing to do things like drawing and stuff. So I'm just thinking that we go down here, and here we instead have to create a loop. So for, let's see if I remember this. So now first we have some, I actually don't remember. So iterate through array in Java. Why did it say JavaScript? Java. Okay, so here it's like using index, but this is not the most elegant way according to me. So do we have a method 2 here? Here. So for int I in an array of ints, like here we can just say that we want to take each item in this list, and then we get the name I for it. So in our case, this would be saying that we want to, like, for each of these draggable object list, draggable object array, we put it here, and say that we want in each iteration to take one of these items in here, and those items, they are draggable objects. So you say what is the type, and then you write what name it is. So the name will also be like, it will be draggable object. And now you see that this here will actually go through this for loop, and in each case it will check draggable objects that actually jump true on every one here. So, and I think we don't need square brackets since we just have one statement here, but maybe just to make everything a bit more robust in case you want to add stuff. This is maybe nicer looking. So then I'm thinking we just need to copy this statement here, hopefully, and Now when I think about it, maybe we can switch for everyone. Like we could have this for loop and make this switch thing for every object. But I think maybe this is better for the resource handling to just put this many times here. I'm not entirely sure. You would have to experiment to get the best result. Okay, and then we make the same here. And then also when we draw the object, we also need to check everything this time and not only one object. So please let this work now. It would be so amazing. I mean, I am not this good usually, so I don't think this will work. Well, I was not that good. Apparently everything is merging now by some weird logic. This is interesting. So why is this happening? So for each of these things, I want to draw them. And here, set action true. Okay. Aha. We must have an if statement here that checks that. We only set it to false, I think, if... Oh yeah, it's the checking part here. We only want to set it to true if we are above it. So for each one, if draggable object is clicked. Is touched. So that's why we wanted this event stuff. Now I remember. Okay. If it is touched. Let's create this one. So how do we know if something is touched? So I guess if, ska vi se, we write if x is less than this dot x, and at the same time, oh no, if it is touched, it must be greater. So if this touch point is greater than x, but it's at the same time smaller, so where is x? X is smaller than x plus the width. The width is 200. I will just cheat and write it hard-coded here. If this is true, at the same time as some other thing is true, I guess we have to, we can make a variable of this. Let's call this x. This is a really bad name, but x boolean or x inside. X is inside, you can call it, and this would be a boolean. So if x is inside, that we will find out by this expression, and by the same logic we can figure out if y is inside of the rectangle. So y, it would be then that y should be actually less than y, or how does this become now? So y, because now we're counting opposite direction. So if this is a box here, so y should be less than or greater than, okay, less than. Maybe that's just the thing, we just flip the signs like that and put y there. And if this is true at the same time, then it is touched actually. Then the rectangle is touched if x coordinate is inside and y coordinate is inside. So I'm thinking we can just return this and we can end it with y. Ah, this is so error prone now, I'm just guessing basically. So let's see. Okay, this doesn't seem to be working. So let's add a debug point here and see what happens. So we debug. Now if I touch this point here, we will see that x is 600 and y is 592. So x here is greater than x, yes, and x, this also values true. Good. Hit F8, I think, for next line. So this is true. And then y inside evaluates to false. So I screwed up here. So maybe this should be minus here. This is really the worst ways to guess things, but I mean, I'm recording now and I just want to make this work. In a real scenario, I would draw this on a piece of paper. And now when I hit here, what is happening now? Maybe I should debug again. Okay, pressing here. This should still be true. But this is false. Okay, so y is less than. Y is 500 and this is 500. But we don't know which rectangle we're actually pointing on now. So this x is. Okay, I think one problem is that we don't know which rectangle we're actually moving. We should take the first one that will be in the list, which will be the one here, I think. So if we touch this one, then we can maybe see what is working or not. So hit F8, it's true, F8, this is also true. So maybe this is working now, and then both are inside, cool. And if draggable object is touched, then draggable object is true, and then for the next one, it should be false. So now, aha, and here we return true again. So why is this? Here we have 100 and 50. 105. Why do we have that? Was that what we initialized it to? Okay. So which one has 100? that one. We're not touching that one. Okay, back to the drawing table. So let's open Paint. So here we have Y, here we have X, here we have the screen, and we have some rectangles here. So when we need to make sure that, so Y is going, can we see the logic here? So Y or X needs to be greater than the rectangle X, and it needs to be less than X plus 200, and that's clear. And Y then needs to be, so if it's increasing like this, Y needs to be greater as well. Huh. Y needs to be greater than this. And if we look then here, so Y must be less than Y plus, okay, so less than, this is weird. So is this how it should be? I should not have changed anything. If it's this easy, I would scream. Ah! It was that simple. I still have some bug, I guess, that they are disappearing. And yeah, why is that? It seems to be something when I let go. So we set it to false. If draggable object is touched, then actions down is true. And here we only set it to if. So if just, I will not have to copy. If drag object dot get action down. So if it is true, then we set it to false. I don't understand how could this matter? If it's true, set it to false. If action move, if it's true, then we do this. And here, if is touched, then set action down true. If it is touched. Maybe we should have an and. We should and it with if it's false. So if we do not, if draggable object and is not draggable object get action down, then we have that around. Now it's complaining. So we have this thing here, then we have the if statement, and we have that one. So we are missing one. Could this be the case? And now everything merges. So how is this happening? So I touch it, nothing happens. I move it, then it's cool. I release it, and it's cool. I touch the same one. So the second time something is happening. What if I start with some lower triangle or rectangle? Remove that one. Aha. Then something is cheesy with the checking if I'm actually moving something. Is touched. Okay, what if we debug? So I touch this. So then the first one should get false. It gets true. So the first x is 621. Yeah, so x should be right, but the y should fail. The y gets true. How can this happen? This one, clearly I touched. Is this the first one in the list? What if we continue to the next one? Okay. So this should not work. So x is greater, yes. Is it because I forgot to write this here? Oh, I really thought it was that. Probably I wrote this on the wrong side. What am I doing here? Why am I this inaccurate? Or why do I do it in this unnecessary way? How about this? Yes! Now it's working. This call for a celebration. I will actually change my hat. And thank you so much for watching this tutorial. I know this was really messy, and I don't know if you even want to watch this. And maybe you now see how stupid I really am, and that I'm just trying different things, and sometimes it works. And I mean, if I do this at work, for instance, then I would sit down and maybe draw everything. But now I'm just guessing around. But I hope I helped you, and that this works for you. See you.